The emergency alert flashed across every screen in the command center. Red lights blinked as another section of New Terra's defensive shield weakened under the relentless bombardment from above. Governor Thomas stood at the main window, watching the dark shapes of Dominion warships moving across the night sky like hungry predators. 3 weeks had passed since the alien fleet appeared without warning. Their demands were simple: surrender the colony or face destruction. The people of New Terra had chosen to fight, but their resources were running low. The colony's buildings, once bright and gleaming, now stood dark to conserve power for the shields. In his office high above the colony's central district, Governor Thomas recorded what might be his final message to Earth. His hand shook slightly as he spoke into the communication system. "Admiral Walker, this is New Terra. Our situation grows worse by the hour. The Dominion fleet now numbers 30 ships. Their weapons—" He paused as another explosion rocked the building. "Their weapons are unlike anything we've seen before. Our shields won't last another week." The message traveled through hidden channels, racing past the Dominion blockade toward Earth. In the space around New Terra, massive alien ships continued their attack. Their hulls gleamed with strange metals, and their weapons fired beams of energy that bent and twisted in impossible ways. The Dominion commanders felt certain of their victory. After all, they had conquered 12 other worlds this same way. Deep in the colony's bunkers, families huddled together, feeling the rumble of impacts above. Children asked their parents when the bad ships would leave, but the adults had no answers to give. The colony's defenders worked tirelessly, moving power from one shield section to another, trying to predict where the next attack would come from. What the Dominion fleet didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this moment. Far away, in a secret staging area, Admiral Walker read the governor's message with a grim smile. He turned to his communication officer. "Send word to the Thunderchild. New Terra has held out long enough. It's time." The Dominion admiral, watching the battle from his flagship, felt pleased with the situation. His sensors showed the colony's shields failing piece by piece. He had seen this pattern before, on other worlds with other species. None had lasted this long, true, but the result would be the same. He prepared to send another demand for surrender when one of his officers reported something strange: a small disturbance in the space near New Terra's largest moon. In the colony's command center, Governor Thomas received a coded message that made him straighten up with new hope. The words were few but powerful. "Hold position. Help is coming. Humanity's new warship will arrive within 12 hours. The governor looked out at his tired staff, at the screens showing failing shields and depleting power reserves, at the latest damage reports from across the colony. He knew asking them to hold out another 12 hours would be demanding the nearly impossible. But he also knew his people would find a way. Humans always did. As the Dominion ships continued their attack pattern, none of them noticed the small changes in local space behind New Terra's moon. None of their sensors detected the subtle warping of gravity or the faint energy signatures that suggested something big was about to happen. They had studied human technology and felt they understood its limits. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The colony's defenders worked through the night, rushing to repair what they could, moving resources to where they were needed most. They didn't know exactly what kind of help was coming, but the promise of a new warship gave them strength to continue. In 12 hours, the galaxy would learn why you should never corner humans. They tend to surprise you in the most spectacular ways. The Thunderchild moved silently through space, its massive engines glowing with a soft blue light. Captain Robert Smith stood on the bridge, looking at the screens that showed their path to New Terra. This was humanity's newest and most powerful warship, and today would be its first real fight. The ship was special in many ways. Humans had studied pieces of alien technology they had found over the years and mixed this knowledge with their own ideas. The result was something totally new, a warship that could do things even the aliens thought impossible. Robert walked around the bridge, checking on his crew as they got ready for battle. Each person knew their job well. They had trained for months, but this would be different from any practice. Real lives depended on them now. The captain stopped at each station, speaking quietly with his crew members, making sure they were ready. "Engineering reports all systems are at full power, Captain," said Jack, the young officer at the main controls. His hands moved quickly over the glowing panels as he spoke. "The new shield system is working perfectly." The shield system was one of the many things that made the Thunderchild special. It didn't just block enemy attacks like normal shields. Instead, it could change the way it worked, making it harder for enemies to figure out how to hurt the ship. The aliens had never seen anything like it. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Mary worked with her team, checking every part of their new drive system. This wasn't just any space engine. It could bend space in ways that would confuse enemy ships' computers. "All power systems are green," she reported to the bridge, ready to show these aliens what humans can do. The weapons room was just as busy. Teams checked the special guns that the Thunderchild carried. These weren't simple energy weapons like the aliens used. Humans had created something new, weapons that used physics in clever ways. They could hit an enemy ship from angles that seemed impossible, or make their shots appear to come from nowhere. Captain Robert moved to the front of the bridge, where a large window showed the stars ahead. He knew his ship was ready. The Thunderchild might look smaller than the alien ships, but it had something they didn't: human creativity. While alien ships followed strict rules about how to fight, the Thunderchild could do unexpected things. "Message from command, sir," called out Tom from the communication station. "New Terra is still holding, but their shields are getting weak. We have 10 hours until we reach their position." Robert nodded, thinking about the colony they were going to save. The Dominion wouldn't expect a single human ship to challenge their whole fleet. That's exactly why it would work. The aliens always thought about war in the same way, following the same rules. But humans changed the rules. "All crew, battle stations," Robert called out. Around the ship, people moved quickly to their positions. Some checked weapons, others watched radar screens, and many worked in the engine room. Everyone knew this was an important moment. They weren't just going to save New Terra. They were going to show the galaxy that humanity wasn't weak. The Thunderchild's engines powered up stronger as they got closer to their target. Soon, they would show the Dominion why it was a mistake to attack a human colony. Robert smiled as he watched his crew work. The aliens thought they knew everything about human ships. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The Thunderchild slowed down near New Terra's largest moon, using its mass to hide from the alien fleet. Captain Robert watched the main screen as it showed 30 Dominion warships surrounding the colony. The alien ships were huge, each one shining with purple energy as they fired at the planet's weakening shields. "Everyone stay quiet," Robert ordered his crew. "Let's set our trap before they know we're here." The crew worked silently at their stations, getting ready for what would come next. In the cargo bay, special teams prepared dozens of mining charges. These weren't normal bombs. They were tools used to break up asteroids, but today they would serve a different purpose. Engineer Mary's voice came through the ship's comm system. "Captain, I've changed the mining charges like you asked. They'll now scramble any ship's sensors that get too close." This was typical human thinking, taking something simple and using it in a clever new way. The Dominion fleet continued their attack, not knowing they were being watched. Their commanders felt certain of victory, following their usual battle plans without worry. That's when Robert gave his first order: launch the charges, spread them wide. Small pods shot out from the Thunderchild, each carrying modified mining charges. They moved slowly and quietly, looking just like pieces of space rock to alien sensors. The pods spread out, forming a web around the enemy fleet. None of the alien ships paid any attention to what looked like harmless debris. "Sir, all charges are in position," reported Jack from his station. Robert nodded, watching the enemy ships carefully. The next few minutes would decide everything. He took a deep breath and gave the order everyone was waiting for: light them up. All at once, the mining charges activated. They didn't explode. Instead, they released waves of energy that made the alien sensors go crazy. Suddenly, the Dominion ships couldn't trust what their computers were telling them. Some sensors showed hundreds of incoming missiles that weren't real. Others couldn't see anything at all. In the confusion, the Thunderchild made its move. The ship came out from behind the moon at full speed, its special engines making it look like it was in 3 places at once. The alien fleet scattered, trying to figure out which image was the real ship. "Target their lead ship," Robert commanded. The Thunderchild's main guns fired, but not in the way alien weapons did. These shots curved through space in impossible ways, hitting the enemy ship from angles its shields weren't ready for. The alien vessel's shields flickered and failed. More pods launched from the Thunderchild, but these held sensor scrambling devices. They attached to nearby alien ships, making their communication systems useless. Ship after ship lost contact with their fleet commanders, unable to receive orders or coordinate their attacks. The colony's defenders watched in amazement as a single human ship threw the mighty Dominion fleet into chaos. The aliens had always relied on perfect formation and careful planning. Now they faced an enemy that didn't play by their rules. "They're trying to regroup," called out Tom from his station. The alien ships were moving, trying to form a circle around the Thunderchild. But Robert had expected this. "Release the second wave of charges," he ordered. More modified mining tools activated, creating a field of confusion that split the alien formation apart. From the colony below, people watched through whatever viewports they could find. They saw alien ships, previously so organized and powerful, now moving in confusion. The mighty Dominion fleet was being picked apart by tricks and tools they had never thought to guard against. Robert smiled as he watched his plan work. The Dominion had expected to fight a normal battle against a normal human ship. Instead, they got mining tools turned into weapons, sensors that couldn't be trusted, and a ship that seemed to break the laws of space itself. This was humanity's way of fighting, using everything they had, no matter how simple, in ways nobody expected. The battle around New Terra became even more intense as the Thunderchild pushed its engines to full power. Captain Robert watched as energy built up in the ship's special drive core. What they were about to do would seem impossible to the alien fleet. "All power to the experimental drive," Robert ordered. Engineer Mary's team in the engine room worked quickly, channeling every bit of spare energy they had. The ship's lights dimmed for a moment, and then something amazing happened. The Thunderchild seemed to split into 3 perfect copies of itself. The Dominion ship's computers couldn't understand what they were seeing. Their sensors showed 3 identical human warships, all moving in different directions. The alien commanders froze, unable to decide which ship was real. Their battle computers, programmed with thousands of years of space combat knowledge, simply showed error messages. "They're shooting at all 3 images," Tom reported from his station, trying not to smile. The alien fleet was wasting energy and weapons, firing at ghost ships that weren't really there. Meanwhile, the real Thunderchild slipped between their shots, getting closer to their biggest vessels. Jack's hands moved quickly over his control panel. "Sir, their lead ship is trying to calculate where we'll be next." But they couldn't. The Thunderchild wasn't moving like a normal ship. Instead of following the usual rules of space combat, it changed direction instantly, making moves that should have torn any ship apart. Robert gave his next order: "Fire the pulse cannons." The Thunderchild's weapons came to life, but these weren't normal guns. They fired shells that split apart just before hitting their targets. What looked like one shot turned into 20 smaller ones, overwhelming the alien shields with attacks from all directions at once. 2 Dominion ships went dark as their power systems failed. Others tried to move away, but the Thunderchild was too quick. It appeared behind them, beside them, above them, everywhere at once. The alien crews had never seen anything like it. Their training had taught them that ships needed time to turn, that weapons fired in straight lines, that physics worked in certain ways. The humans were breaking all these rules. Enemy ships are talking to each other more, Tom called out. They're scared, sir. Their messages are full of confusion. The Dominion fleet had always relied on their superior technology, but now that technology was telling them things that couldn't be true. Their sensors showed impossible movements, their computers reported things that didn't make sense, and their weapons couldn't hit a target that seemed to be everywhere at once. Mary's voice came through the ship's speakers. Captain, we can give you one more big push from the engines. After that, we'll need 10 minutes to cool down. Robert nodded, knowing this was their chance to show the aliens just how wrong they were about human capabilities. All crews, brace for final maneuver, Robert announced. The Thunderchild's engines glowed brighter than ever before. For a moment, the ship seemed to vanish completely. The alien fleet's sensors lost all trace of it. Then suddenly, the human ship appeared right in the middle of their formation. The Thunderchild spun in place, its weapons firing in every direction. Each shot curved through space in its own special way. Some moved in spirals, others split, and came back together. And some seemed to pass through empty space before appearing right next to their targets. The alien ship's shields had been built to stop normal attacks, not these strange human weapons that didn't follow the normal rules. More Dominion ships lost power or retreated from the battle. Their perfectly organized fleet was now in chaos. These aliens had spent centuries building their warships, making them stronger and more advanced. But in just one battle, they learned that sometimes being advanced wasn't enough. Sometimes, the simple human way of thinking, of looking at rules and finding new ways to bend them, was more powerful than any technology. The Dominion fleet tried to fight back, but their usual way of fighting wasn't working. Their ships always moved in special formations, following orders from their leaders, but now they couldn't talk to each other properly. The Thunderchild had filled space with devices that mixed up their messages. Their command ship is sending out new orders, Tom reported from his station. On the main screen, they could see the alien ships trying to make a new battle formation. But every time they started to move together, the Thunderchild would appear in their midst, forcing them to scatter again. Captain Robert watched the alien ships carefully. He knew their weakness now. They couldn't think for themselves. Every move needed permission from their leaders. Send the pulse now, he ordered. The Thunderchild released a massive wave of energy that blocked all communication between the alien ships. Down in the colony, Governor Thomas saw what was happening. The mighty alien fleet that had scared them for weeks was now moving around in confusion. He made a quick decision. All defense stations, power up weapons. The Thunderchild has given us our chance. The colony's defense guns, which had been saving power for weeks, came to life. They weren't as powerful as the alien weapons, but they didn't need to be. The Dominion ships were too busy trying to deal with the Thunderchild to notice the new threat from below. The colony is attacking, Jack called out excitedly. Robert smiled as he watched New Terra's guns firing up at the confused alien fleet. The colonists had learned from watching the Thunderchild. They didn't fire directly at the alien ships. Instead, they shot at weird angles, making their shots harder to block. Engineer Mary's voice came through the speakers. Captain, I found a way to make our engine noise sound like 10 ships instead of one. This was perfect timing. Robert quickly gave the order, and suddenly the alien ship's sensors showed many human warships appearing all around them. The Dominion fleet broke apart completely. Some ships tried to run away, while others kept fighting. But without being able to talk to each other, they couldn't fight properly. Each ship did something different, making it easy for the Thunderchild to pick them off one by one. Look at their formation now, Tom said, pointing at his screen. The once perfect alien battle line had turned into a mess. Ships moved in all directions, trying to find safety. Some crashed into each other, their careful movement patterns ruined by the confusion. The colony's people watched from below as their attackers fell into chaos. For 3 weeks, these alien ships had seemed unstoppable. Now they were running from a single human warship and the colony's simple defenses. The colonists cheered each time Another alien ship turned to run away. More explosions lit up space as the Thunderchild continued its attack. The human ship moved like a dancer between the alien vessels, its weapons firing in patterns that made no sense to the Dominion's battle computers. Their shields were built to stop normal attacks, not the strange ways humans had learned to fight. Colony reports all their weapons are working now, Tom said. The people of New Terra had kept their best weapons hidden, saving power until the right moment. Now they joined the fight with everything they had. Their shots might have been weaker than the alien weapons, but there were hundreds of them firing at once. Robert watched as the Dominion fleet fell apart more and more. These aliens had always won their battles by being bigger and stronger, by having better technology. But today they learned that technology wasn't everything. Sometimes, being clever and unpredictable was better than having the biggest ships or the strongest weapons. The Thunderchild moved through the battlefield like a ghost, appearing where the aliens least expected it. Each time they thought they had the human ship trapped, it would do something impossible. The aliens were learning a hard lesson. Never think you know everything humans can do. They will always find a new way to surprise you. A massive shadow fell over the battlefield as the Dominion's biggest ship moved forward. The flagship was 3 times larger than the Thunderchild, its hull covered in weapons. The alien admiral had finally decided to fight the human ship himself. "That's one big angry ship," Jack said from his control station. Everyone on the Thunderchild's bridge watched as the huge vessel approached. Its weapons were powering up, glowing with enough energy to destroy a small moon. Captain Robert stayed calm. "Size isn't everything," he said. "Mary, how many asteroids can we grab with our tractor beams?" The engineer quickly checked her systems. 4 at once, Captain. Maybe 5 if we push it." Robert nodded, already forming a plan in his mind. The Dominion flagship fired its main weapons. Huge beams of energy cut through space, but the Thunderchild was already moving. The human ship darted between nearby asteroids, using them as shields. Each time the alien admiral thought he had a clear shot, another space rock would float into the way. "They're trying to predict where we'll go next," Tom reported. The flagship's computers were processing every move the Thunderchild made, looking for patterns. But Robert wasn't following any pattern. He was playing a game of hide and seek with asteroids, making moves that looked random. The Thunderchild's tractor beams grabbed nearby asteroids and started moving them around. To the alien flagship's sensors, it looked like the rocks were floating naturally. They didn't realize the human ship was setting up a trap, creating a maze of moving stones. "Their flagship is following us into the asteroid field," Jack said. Robert smiled. The alien admiral was too proud to let a smaller ship escape. The huge flagship pushed forward, its shields brushing aside smaller rocks. But with each move, it went deeper into the Thunderchild's trap. Mary's voice came through the speakers. "Captain, I've got those special torpedoes ready." These weren't normal weapons. They were mining charges mixed with sensor scramblers. When they exploded, they would fill space with clouds of metal dust that would confuse the flagship's targeting systems. The battle became like a chess game. The Thunderchild would show itself, then disappear behind an asteroid. The flagship would fire, but hit only rock. The human ship moved the asteroids with its tractor beams, always keeping something between itself and the enemy's biggest guns. "Launch the torpedoes," Robert ordered. The special weapons shot out from the Thunderchild, hiding among the asteroids. The flagship's sensors didn't see them as threats. They looked just like pieces of broken rock. Until they exploded. Suddenly, the space around the flagship was full of shining metal dust. Their sensors couldn't see through it. Their targeting computers showed hundreds of false targets. The huge ship started firing at shadows, while the real Thunderchild slipped closer. The flagship tried to back away, but it was too late. They were surrounded by asteroids, and their sensors couldn't tell which rocks were real and which were just clouds of metal dust. The mighty ship had fallen into a trap set by a smaller, cleverer enemy. "All weapons, fire when ready," Robert commanded. The Thunderchild's guns opened up, shooting from multiple directions at once. Some shots bounced off asteroids, coming at the flagship from unexpected angles. Others went through clouds of metal dust, appearing right next to the alien ship's shields. The flagship's shields started to fail. They had been built to stop direct attacks from the front, not shots coming from every direction at once. The alien admiral watched in shock as his mighty ship was beaten not by superior force, but by clever tricks and smart planning. A series of explosions lit up the flagship's hull. The great ship's engines started to fail. The alien admiral realized something that many others had learned too late. Humans didn't need the biggest ships or the strongest weapons to win. They just needed to be clever and think differently. The Dominion flagship drifted in space, most of its lights dark and its weapons silent. Around it, the remaining alien ships started to pull back. They had never seen their greatest ship defeated before, especially not by a single enemy vessel. Captain Robert stood on the Thunderchild's bridge, looking at the damage they had caused. His ship had some burns and dents, but it was still strong. The crew worked quickly to fix what they could, proud of what they had done today. "Enemy ships are running away," Tom reported from his station. On the main screen, they could see the Dominion fleet retreating. These ships that had seemed so mighty just hours ago were now racing to get away from a single human warship. Robert pressed a button on his chair. His voice would now reach every alien ship in the area. "This is Captain Robert of the UES Thunderchild. Remember what you saw today. Remember that humanity will not bow to bullies, no matter how big their ships are. And remember this, the Thunderchild is just the first of many." In the colony below, people came out of their shelters to watch through windows and view screens. They saw the mighty alien fleet that had terrorized them for weeks now running away. Their cheers could be heard throughout every building and street. "Message from the colony, sir," Tom said with a smile. "Governor Thomas says thank you. Their shields are already starting to recover. They'll be okay now." The colony's buildings began lighting up again as power was restored. The dark days were over. On the Dominion flagship, the alien admiral watched his fleet retreat. His hand shook as he recorded an urgent message to his leaders. "The humans are not what we thought. Their ships can do impossible things. Their weapons don't follow normal rules. We must rethink everything we knew about them." The Thunderchild moved through space, checking for any aliens trying to hide behind moons or asteroids. But they were all gone. The ship that had seemed too small to matter had chased away an entire invasion fleet. Engineer Mary's voice came through the ship's speakers. "Captain, other colonies are calling. They've heard what happened here. They're calling us heroes." Robert smiled. This wasn't just about saving one colony. This was about showing the whole galaxy that humans weren't weak. In space, pieces of broken alien ships floated among the asteroids. These were parts of vessels that had thought themselves unbeatable until today. They had learned that sometimes the greatest strength isn't in having the biggest guns or the strongest shields. Sometimes it's in thinking differently and being clever. "Sir," Jack called from his station, "long-range sensors show the alien fleet jumping to light speed. They're really gone." The crew cheered. They had done what seemed impossible. They had beaten an enemy that everyone thought was too strong to fight. Governor Thomas sent one last message from the colony. "To the crew of the Thunderchild, you didn't just save our colony today. You showed everyone that humanity deserves its place among the stars. We will never forget what you did here." Robert looked at his tired but happy crew. "Send word to Earth," he ordered. "Tell them the colony is safe. Tell them the Dominion fleet is running. And tell them," he paused, smiling, "tell them it's time to build more ships like the Thunderchild." The news spread quickly through human space. Colonies that had lived in fear of the Dominion now stood tall. Other alien races that had thought humans were weak started looking at them differently. The galaxy was changing because one ship and its crew had proved something important. Never underestimate humans. As the Thunderchild patrolled around New Terra, making sure no alien ships tried to sneak back, Robert thought about what they had really won today. It wasn't just a battle. They had won respect. They had shown that humans could beat anyone, no matter how strong they seemed. The Dominion, and everyone else in the galaxy, would have to remember that from now on.